Hello and welcome back to Mystic Tides Tarot for all of you with the sign of Leo. So we are looking into this Lunar New Year 2026 year of the Fire Horse. And we want to kind of understand what is required of us, or what are the energies that would bode well with what's going on. I feel like this is going to be a wild year, and it's going to require a lot more tempering than maybe we are used to or we would like to be necessary. But that's generally what I'm getting. Okay, so let's see. I want to start off with a card to represent this year to you specifically, okay? So a card that you can interact, a card that's going to help you understand how to interact with this year better, even though I kind of already started saying some of that. Let's see what this beautiful dragon tarot has to say. The Hanged Dragon, or the Hanged Man. Yeah, you know, the Hanged Man shows up when maybe we're rushing or wanting things to go faster than they are, or really wanting answers to come through. And this card is coming out to just slap you in the face. No, I'm just kidding. This card comes out to tell you you need to slow your roll, because right now is not a time of action per se, specifically towards that thing. It's more of a time to sit and wait, or to maybe go within, because this also allows you to do some introspection that maybe perhaps if you were too busy going and, going out to get it, you wouldn't be able to do. We'd like to think that if we can just go and do a bunch of things and accomplish a bunch of things in a very outward, physical, visual way, that's all that we need. But that's not all that we need. And specifically in this year for you, Leo, it's telling you that you got to calm that ass down a bit. And Leo is the flamboyant sign. It's the sign, it's a fire element sign. It's a sign that everyone is going to know. It's a sign that likes to be the center of attention, even if they are shy, because there are shy Leos out there. But you love getting attention. Who doesn't like to be validated, right? But you like validation that's a little louder than your average validation, because it just gives you that extra oomph, and if this doesn't feel like it resonates with you, that's fine. You can click off the reading. But if it's hitting home, then stick around, because this is going to be a reading that's a lot longer than my typical. Well, I've only ever done it one other time. I just started doing horoscope readings, but yeah, this is going to be a longer reading than my usual one. Obviously you clicked on this video, you saw the time, you already know how long the video is. So I'm kind of obviously, in real time here. I'm not sure how long it's going to run, but I know it's going to run longer than I thought that they would, just because I just did Aries and another one of the fire signs, right? And it was really good reading. But anyways, enough of that chitty chat. So this is kind of the card that represents the year for you. So it's the year of the Fire Horse. And a lot of people have been talking about how this is a go-getter year. This year is go, go, go. It's about all of this movement. And that's that's one way to look at it. And I'm not saying that it's completely wrong, but think about the animal, think about what the horse is. Horses are also known to be very skittish, to be very sensitive to the slightest touch. Horses are known, to scare easily. Horses are known to be also very strong, muscular, also fast, but not all horses are fast. There's so much more to it than just that. And of course, if you are a go-getter, or if you love to be out there, then maybe initially that first way to define the fire horse of just go, go, go seemed very pleasant. And this other way of thinking about it doesn't sit as pleasant. And maybe that's because that's where we got to do the work, which, makes sense with the Hanged Man showing up. This is not a card of action. So it's almost like saying, even though this is the year of the fire horse and a lot of people are saying it's about movement, it's about making these moves, it's about being bold, It's not that it isn't and that that's completely wrong, as much as the way that you handle it, because you already can be bold. You can already be a person that goes and that moves forth. For you, that might be too much of the same energy. And it might increase to a volume that's too loud. You know what I mean? So the hangman is kind of like saying, instead of trying to run with that energy, work with it and don't get burned by it. And maybe that sounds a bit aggressive. I don't know, but that's just what's coming through. I am just the bridge here. I am only the messenger. Okay. So let's see how to best approach this year. Now, obviously this card is representing the year, but how should you best interact with it? And I already kind of touched on this, but let's see what the tarot has to say about how you should best approach this year, generally speaking, for Leo. The Queen of Cups. Yep. You need the water to balance out all of this fire. The Queen of Cups. She is water of water because she is the queen. So she also represents the element of water as a queen. And then the cups is the water element. So it's like a lot of water here to douse a little bit of that flame so it does not overcome and overconsume like I was mentioning earlier. So the way that you're going to be approaching this year, apart from like not getting swept away with this fire energy that might feel a little too good in the beginning, because it will end up in some kind of like not so great place. And I'm not trying to, you know, tell you, I don't want to scare you off, and I don't think you would scare easily anyway, but I'm not trying to be all doom and gloom here. I just want you to be equipped for things so that you can pivot wisely before getting into the pit per se. But yeah, so how to best approach this year, generally speaking. The Queen of Cups is also known to be a very nurturing type of character. So nurture can be applied to everything and anything. You know, it could be nurturing yourself, nurturing your loved ones, nurturing certain aspects of yourself, nurturing parts of yourself that hardly ever are nurtured because you're so far leaning into a certain type of way that you are, you know. So kind of like feeding the things, like, okay, this just came through. If you're fire all the time and you're feeding things fire all the time, then the things that need water are starved, right? So it's kind of like saying, if you're asked to not run with the fire and to temper it a little bit, not just by dousing it a bit, but to temper it a little bit, to kind of like know what to do with that excess energy that you may be holding on to because you're not putting it towards that fire, is to use this water. Use your energy to use this water to nurture those things that needed water that have not been getting it. So it's not like you're just sitting there and you have nothing to do. There's still plenty to do. It's just in a different way than what you're used to, in a different way than is maybe your forte. And this isn't to make you feel less than or bad. It's to make you more well-rounded so that you can essentially get this, because the hangman also can be a spiritual awakening or a spiritual initiation. So it could be taking you on this path to become more well-rounded because that's on the horizon for you. Which obviously, you know, if you're working on something that's not your comfort zone, I think as a spiritual person, you know that that's going to bring you a whole nother level of intelligence, spiritually speaking. I feel like that goes without saying, but, you know, just in case, sometimes we know so many of these things and it isn't until somebody mentions them again or says them in a different way that we're like, oh yeah, or, oh, I never thought about it that way. That totally opens this up different for me, you know? Anyways, okay, so now let's move on to what this year is going to look like for you spiritually speaking, which I feel once again, like I already answered that, but here we go. I just keep getting ahead of myself with my channeling, but I like pulling from the tarot because I love the confirmation of the tarot. So yeah, let's see what this year of the fire horse has for Leo, spiritually speaking. 10 of Wands. Yeah, it's going to be work. It's going to be work. Spiritually speaking, it is going to be work, which, like I said, it makes sense if we're thinking about the whole initiation aspect of the Hanged Man. The 10 of Wands is a card of, one of the words that I associated with the 10 of Wands for the longest time was burnout. And it's because you literally cannot carry one more thing because you will collapse. And if you're carrying that much of a load, how long can you go before you collapse anyway, right? So it's kind of like saying, spiritually speaking, maybe you're in the middle of a spiritual journey already, or maybe you're understanding that this initiation is going to cost quite a bit and your spirit knows it. This isn't a bad thing, but let's see, what can we, let's try to give you something that can help you with that. So like, what's going to be your greatest ally or like your biggest tool during the spiritual journey that is going to be this year? The Knight of Swords. Why? Okay, so spiritual journey, it's going to be heavy. Okay, but are we going to pretend that this isn't going to affect our mind, our emotional states? Of course not, because everything's connected and you are the being, right? So this is going to be heavy, spiritually speaking, but your biggest asset and your biggest tool is your ability to move quickly, which is funny because right here we're talking about you don't want to be fire all the time. However, that does not have anything to do with whether you know how to get in or out of things fast. And that's actually going to be your saving grace. What does this mean? So you're in this, let's just say you're in the trenches. Let's just say that, right? You're in the trenches. You're having trouble figuring out how to tap into the water element because you're so fiery and you've been fiery for so long, but things are getting really heavy. And you know that this is part of like some kind of spiritual lesson, but you're fed up with it and you're just like feeling a bit confused, a bit lost. You are one of those people that is very quick with thinking, that is very quick-minded. So you don't stay in a place too long, and that's always helped you in the past when it comes to being a go-getter and moving out of situations that no longer serve you. And now it's kind of like saying, well, now apply that to your spiritual life. Even though, spiritually speaking, a lot of things are about slowing down, it's also about making things that aren't supposed to be... Okay, no, let me rewind. It's about not staying in a place that doesn't serve you, also mentally and spiritually speaking. Now, the spiritual journey, you're on it no matter what. That's just the name of the game when you sign the contract to be a human being. You're on this spiritual journey. But how long do you torment yourself before you realize it's time to move on? And that's kind of like a lesson that you're going to start learning. And what's going to save you is your ability to think quickly, because it's going to help you get out of situations. So an example that I can give you, because I've gone through this myself, is sometimes something's just not right in your life and you're not exactly sure what it is. And there are a few areas that you're like, okay, that could be better, but not one huge thing. And you start feeling this heaviness just kind of looming over you. Some people call this depression. And then all of a sudden you don't see the point in doing anything. You start feeling apathetic. And how long you stay in that feeling is up to you. And this card is telling you, you don't have to stay there long. The moment this starts happening, you have the power to take yourself out of it. And this is not about avoiding the work. This is not about pretending that you don't feel these things. This is about finding practical solutions to something that's deeper, that's causing this in the first place, so you don't have to feel that way anymore. So it's kind of like saying, yes, you're going to go on the spiritual journey, but don't forget that you're already equipped with how to handle anything that you might be getting into. So don't step into it with any type of like fear. Not that you might really know that you're stepping into it when you're stepping into it, mind you, because, you know, that's just the way things are sometimes. Woo. Yeah, this is going to be a big spiritual year for you for sure. Now, let's pause that and let's go into finances. Let's see this year what finances are looking like for Leo. This one. Oh, interesting. Three of Pentacles. So finances, not bad, not amazing. It's really dependent on your ability to tap into your creative side. And this could include working with other people as well. But more than anything, it's not about like just crunching numbers, like very straight, you know, no, it's very much to do with your creativity. And you have a lot of creativity, Leo. You are a fire sign. Fire is the sign of creativity. So you don't struggle with this. And this is good because you're going to need to pull on that creativity for everything that we spoke of, right? To being able to understand when the fire's running too hot, and then how do you turn that down? You might have to be creative with that. How do you tap into watering and nurturing those things that needed more water instead of fire? You might need to be creative for that. How do you know when you're taking on too much and when to stop, or how to get over that pain when you're in the middle of those trenches with that spiritual lesson? You might need to get creative for that. However, right here, I kind of told you, you already know kind of how to get out of those trenches. It's a mental battle more than anything. Even though it's a spiritual initiation, it's a mental battle, because the mind, the ego, is going to do everything it can to stop you from doing things that they think is dangerous. And a lot of the times when you're going through spiritual lessons or in any type of initiation, the ego is going to be like, nah, we're good. We're good. Like, we are so good right now. We are so safe. Why would we bother doing that? That looks ugly. That looks painful. We don't know what the outcome's going to be. So why would I step into that? Like, that's what the ego is going to say. But that's also your ally. The ego is also what's going to help you see the logic and understand the benefits of the lessons. So this is kind of tapping into when the ego starts getting a little scared, you know exactly how to jump out of that and switch it up. That's one of your skills. And that's creativity right there. That's creativity in the most beautiful way. But yeah, when it comes to finances, that creativity is going to be essential. I don't see anything happening in terms of like a big break financially this year. I also don't see anything happening in terms of like you losing money this year. It seems like it's very chill. However, it would be to your greater benefit to start thinking about finances in a creative way. And maybe the fruits to that labor will come through in 2027. But for now, that's what I have for finances. Let's see what comes through for our relationships and social life. As I told Aries, which was the sign I did before, I say social life and relationships because not everyone wants to be in a partnership. Not everyone wants to be in a romantic relationship. Some people want to be in different kinds of relationships. And I feel like when I say relationships, depending on the person, they might take it in as just like a love partnership. But this could also be your family life, your friends, any type of social interactions. So let's look into social interactions and relationships for Leo. The Five of Pentacles. So you're either coming from this state of mind or you're feeling this. Like either this is something that's you've thought of in the past that's haunted you, or this is what's going on right now. But it's almost like you feel like your group of friends or your social life isn't enough or what it's supposed to be. And you're not technically, I don't know, maybe you are putting yourself out there and seeking, but you're kind of looking or waiting for it to get better. And it's kind of like right in front of you and you're missing it. And it might also have to do with the fact that maybe you're also taking your community for granted. And I'm also going to use another example of mine here because I was thinking, okay, I need a community. And, of course, I'm hoping to build a community with this channel. Don't get me wrong. I would love that. But I felt like I was looking outside for something because I wanted to be accepted and cared for. I wanted to be celebrated, just like you do, Leo. I wanted that. But I was totally bypassing the fact that I have these really cool, badass people already in my life. Like, I don't know. It's kind of like I wanted more. I wanted quantity, even though I had quality. And that's like kind of fucked up, right? Like, these are the people that have my back. These are the people that have been there supporting me regardless of what career pivot I make next, because I've done quite a few, and they've never made me feel like shit for it. And here I am trying to look for more. Do I think I'm going to do better? Am I not appreciating them? And it's kind of like the vibe that this card gave me. Because, especially in this card, because this card, you have all of these kinds of animals. Like the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck just shows two people looking kind of wounded, walking in the snow outside of like what looks like to be a church. And the church inside is like lit up. You could see through like this stained glass window. And they're like out in the cold and they're struggling when they could literally just knock on the church doors and go inside and be warm. Okay. But here, and I'm not saying that that's not relevant. That is relevant. That's why I told you every detail that I did. But right here, there's a lot. So it's kind of like saying you already have more than one bestie, you know? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just as many animals as there are pentacles. But for some reason, something's not matching, something's not hitting. So I don't know if there's conversations that need to be had. I don't know. Maybe this is something you want to journal on in terms of like how you view relationships. Are these relationships filling you? Why are they not? You know, it's not about accepting whatever. You know, it's not also about accepting whatever, okay? Because if somebody's being a shitty friend to you, then call them out. Obviously, you need to have your boundaries, but also understanding what role you're playing in this relationship. Is this relationship not as good as it could be because of them, of you, of both of you? What conversations need to be had? Do you need to like, you know, set up some boundaries? You know, things like that. Kind of reevaluating the social aspect of it all. Because also looking into what you're going to be getting into in the other areas of your life. Are these friends that will support you through that? Are they going to help you, or are they going to confuse you more? Or are they going to add more to your back than you're already going to be carrying? Or maybe you're going to have to carry some of that for one friend and then not have enough for another friend. And maybe that's another thing you might want to like journal on. What friends am I willing to carry wands for? Because I know that they're that good friend versus maybe a filler friend, which sounds mean, you know, because obviously that's still a human being. But if they're just there to fill a space to make you feel important, then you're doing them a disservice by keeping them around. And vice versa, because, I mean, you know, you're Leo. You're probably no one's filler friend, right? But what if they see you as such? Then they're not appreciating you for who you are. So they got to go. Because that spot can be filled with someone who will not see you as a filler friend and truly does appreciate you, right? So, yeah, I feel like the relationships is definitely going to be something you're going to want to explore and get in front of early on, because you can actually take action on that in terms of you can journal and explore and take as long as you need to with the exploration part before you start quickly jumping to conclusions. Because once again, the Hanged Man, okay, this year represents that waiting period. So don't be quick to jump into anything. Not because you should be scared to make decisions, but because this is a time of really taking your time, not thinking that you're running out of time at all. Matter of fact, a superpower that anyone can have right now during this time in, you know, the world is the ability to slow down time. And you can only do that if you're present, if you're in the moment, if you're not rushing. The more you rush, the less time you have. And it's a cycle that continues to feed itself. Okay, Leo. That is the end of your reading. I hope that you enjoyed it. You got something from it. I don't want to say anything else because I might kill it at this point. Not in a good way. But I hope you come back, and I'll see you in your next reading. Goodbye.